to change. We want to manage the deer and the ruahenis. We're doing that with our closed areas, yours on this side, the Poranaki and the Aurora on our side. For the last 20 years we've managed those closed areas quite well. So therefore, why can't we manage the rest of the range? We've got a history, so Doc can't say that it can't be done, because we're doing it. Our perspective, our social and economic benefits to our community. We've been through this, communities from the sport of hunting, tourism, retail, youth training programs. There's all those through the deer stalkers. It builds confidence, it gives the youth confidence and shows them that they can do things. Over the last 5 years, the issue of gun licenses, well, they are the gun licenses are going out at a rate of knots. I think just in the last month or so, there's been quite a few, so there's a lot of people getting into the sport, which is showing Doc that there are big numbers of recreational hunters out there and a lot of people who want to get into the sport. And they're saying, of course, like recreational hunters can't control deer. That's one of the main things that they'll tell you, which is a load of crap. We control deer quite well. Aerial hunting of hinds and fawn and mature stags jeopardises future breeding. Well, we know that if you take your breeding hinds out, there's nothing to breed, and if you take your stags out, well, we've got nothing for the raw, there's no trophies. A lot of guys, that's what they live for, that's what they hunt for, they look forward to the raw by chasing the stag. That's the first thing the aerial boys will knock over is a velvet stag because it weighs the heaviest. So, that's another thing that the group is saying. We want to leave those stags there for you guys to harvest and the young guys to chase. Our perspective, if it is unnecessary to use aerial hunting to control deer in the ruahenis when recreational hunters are able to do the job, I just covered that. That's true, we don't need helicopters, they're gone. They're already doing it, the Poranaki Aurora diggers, I covered that, and your side, we've done that very successfully for the last 25 years. We're still doing it really well now. In actual fact, instead of one hunter shooting 10 deer, there's 10 hunters out there shooting 1 deer. And that's how the growth of recreational hunting has happened in the last 4 to 5 years. A lot of that's to do with magazines like Greg's, promoting hunting as a sport, and the DVDs we've got now. People see this, they want a part of the action. And we want to make sure, the big thing we want to make sure is those deer are there so they can have some action. And if these Wairo boys keep going like they are, well, everybody's going to miss out. It's just going to be a total disaster. Both the Wapiti Foundation and the Kaimanawa Horse Trust independently manage their resources. They both do a great job. It's working really well. They're working in conjunction with Doc. Now, I suppose, the thing is we can't take Doc out of the picture on this. What we're saying is we're not saying that we're going to take Doc out of the picture. We have to work with Doc on this, We'll manage the herd, they manage the ecosystem or environment, and if there's a conflict, it gets sorted, but it's not through Waro or helicopter. That's what we're saying. We can sort this out. Doc have a scientific perspective to control deer, but that's what I'm saying. Doc create policy and procedures. Yeah, they create all the bullshit. They can uncreate it. Now they've proven that they can create it when they want it done, and they can take it away when it doesn't suit them. And they've done this on quite a few occasions. Now what we're saying is that we want some sort of stability in control of the ruahine range, of the deer. What we've got there, that doesn't suit the public, it doesn't suit the hunter. So we want to change that. We want some sort of, stability. Can recreational hunters be responsible? That's what I'm saying, we can be. Now we want a memorandum of understanding on a 5-year trial period in the ruahine range. Helicopters out for 5 years. What's that? Oh, it's there. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'll get to that. Solutions. United Futures coalition partner with National, and through this, that's the Animal Game Council. This is unfortunately, it has to go a wee bit political, and legislation has to be made, I think, through government on the deer issue. What the Game Council will do with this and undertake, I guess we'll have to wait and see if they get it through. But know, Alan will talk more about this when he has his speech. This could take more than 12 months to pass into legislation. Do we wait? And if we do, will it be too late for the deer? Yeah, well, we can't wait for another 12 months. Another waro season up here will just about put it back to where it was in the 80s. Very low deer numbers. The longer we don't do something about this, or we don't keep the heat on dock, they can take away those closed areas, which is a big concern. So we have to keep some sort of pressure up, and it's got to come from you guys. It's got to come from the hunters. You know, you've got the power to do this, you guys. It's not, you know, dock work. You've got to remember that dock work for you and us. You know, they're taking it upon a law to themselves, but it doesn't work like that. They've forgotten what they're there for. They're so full of bullshit, they've forgotten exactly what they're there for. So you guys have got to tell them what you want. Not ask them, you've got to tell them it's your right. So you've got to think about that. You know, if you want the deer in the ruahenis, you've got to think about what you're going to do about it. That's a message I want to put past you guys. It's up to all of you people to do it. It's you know, it's not up to me or Vince. It's up to everybody. You know, the whole hunting fraternity of New Zealand, especially the Manawatu and the East Coast side here on the ruahenis, or the Wellington people. You know, people who come to hunt the deer in there, which they do. They come from all over the place. Taranaki. You know, they even come down from the Waikato. I know a lot of guys, hunters from the Waikato, come down here because, you know, it's of the access, and they get a deer, and we want to keep it that way. You know, we want to keep numbers there so you can shoot a deer. Solutions. Recreational hunters are network now. Can they manage the deer population? Yeah, well, we see that. Of course we can. There's developing an independent hunters federation that manages the deer population in the ruahenis an answer. Well, we don't know about that. That's what we are saying to you people. Is that the way? I mean, that's open for discussion. That's what all the hunting groups and the deer hunters have to work on. How would you want the deer managed up there? I guess that's the feedback that we've got to get back off you guys. Your ideas on how you would want it to go. That's the big one. And then when you get all that in, consider and work out some sort of strategy. Can we create a pilot project in conjunction with DOC to manage the deer pop? Yeah, we can. We can sort out a project with DOC, not a problem. But the thing is, we have to sort it out amongst ourselves first, take it to DOC, and then we're telling them what we want. We're not asking them, we're telling them. And I think a lot of people with DOC, they got this misconception, you know, like, okay, they're a government partner, okay, they've got a little bit of power, but so have the people of the land have got a lot of power. You guys, you own the deer herds, you know, you own the land. You know, DOC have got to realise that. They've been so far up their arse, they've forgotten that. So they've got to be brought down a wee bit. So what we're saying is, you know, we're going to have a go at bringing them down. Just let them know, like I said to that bloody Jason down there, you know, you're just managing it for us. We're paying you to look after it, mate, not decimate it. He just went red. I mean, you know, the fact is they've got to realise that that's what they're there for. So that's where we are, really, and this is what just sort of a thing that we just sort of, you know, sort of come up with a wee bit. It's just a guideline of how it can be done. I mean, you can just look at it and you know, make up your own minds. I mean, it's just a guideline at this stage, but that's sort of how the action group thinks it can be sort of done. What you can do in the upcoming election, make your vote count, give your party vote to United Future. You'll see why after listening to Alan shortly. If you're keen to help us with your time, donation, resources or skills, we'd like you to add your name and contact details to the list. That's on the table out here in the hall somewhere. You know, we'd appreciate any feedback or any help you want to give us on this. You know, we shouldn't even be sitting here talking about this. I mean, we've been pushed into this. You know, DOC's lack of understanding of how things are in this country and how they're going about our wild game herd. You know, we should be at home doing things. We shouldn't be sitting here planning an attack on these guys, you know, especially because we're paying them to do that. And that's what I don't like personally. is there just their lack of, or just their way of looking at it, you know? They've just forgotten all the bloody fundamentals of why they're there and what they're meant to do in this country. So that wraps it up for me. I can't really say anything else because I don't want to trip myself up or hang myself. I could talk about it for hours because I'm a passionate hunter and I believe that we need hunting in this country, you know. It's got to be here for future generations. Because it builds character and it gives people confidence, and that's a massive thing. So I'll hand it over to Steve. He's another member of the action group. He'd like to say a few words. Thank you for that.
Oh, good on you, Phil. That was good. Yeah, well, thank you again for the opportunity to share what we have a vision and what's on our heart.
We'll turn the lights up for you.
Yeah, good man. Yes, Steve Nelson is my name. I'm a fourth generation boy from Rangawahia, right up in the hills. My forefathers come from Poland and they were just slaughtered by thousands, and they took off and they went to the very furthest point they could get from Poland, which was way up in the hills of Rangawahia. The first white woman was my great-grandmother. And my grandfather on my mother's side saw the first deer released into the Ruahinis. And my father's auntie shot one of the first probably 12 pointers. And I got it mounted, I've got it in the garage and it's going to the museum in Fielding. A magnificent 12 shot under license, managed. They were managed in the deer, they were released. And you weren't allowed to shoot anything under 10 points. And they built up in numbers and they were magnificent specimen, and they were not allowed to sell anything because they come from England, they come from Europe where everything was so expensive you could not shoot an animal without paying the landlord huge money. And they wanted to keep this nation as a nation we can go fishing, we can go hunting, anyone can, and it's theirs. It's their meat to take home, and that's we've got to really guard this. So what happened was, I've been there for a long time shooting. Got boys shooting, got grandsons coming on, and I've been working with Doc a lot. I've worked with young kids. I've taken many school trips from the Waipara Saddle and right up through back and forth from Hawke's Bay to Manawatu. And then we've been through the helicopter stage in the 60s and the 70s and seen them slaughtered, and Deerstalkers Association did a great job in having the Poranaki and the Ourua catchments separate, kept from helicopters, and it's been a fantastic victory really, because there's not many places in New Zealand that had that. Now, DOC are renewing and looking at all their policies right now, and then when I come out of the bush one day and we went up the A-frame and I was photographing some birds, and I looked around and the place there's a jolly jerry can of ag fuel hidden underneath the leather bush. And then there were shotgun shells and guts is on places they're not meant to be. And there was all this skullduggery going on with choppers. And I talked to Simon Wismiller with him. He's Rangatipi Helicopters. He's done a lot of deer stalking with choppers. He said, listen Steve, he said, it's not economic for me to even put a chopper in those hills. There's a 2 kilometre buffer zone. If the farmer hasn't signed that he's got no poison, he said the boundaries are set. He said it's not even worth me taking the chopper out. These guys are, he said, these guys that are doing the work up there are poaching all over the place and making a mockery of DOC and their laws. And they got to the stage where they were shooting deer within the 2K just off the farm and just waving their fingers at the farmer too, because when it went to court, the helicopters pilots and that knew that the judge would chuck it out, because unless that farmer had an invoice that he bought poison, he had photographs that the poison baits were full, the court judge would have said, we had no poisoning. So these guys got really cheeky. So they were getting smarter and smarter, and then with Silverfern Farms and that wanting so many venison, they weren't even getting documentation of where they were shot. They were just part of it too. So when I come out of the bush and saw this, and it takes a fair bit for me to get out of my house, I read in the paper, Phil, the Manawatu Evening Standard have taken this on. They did a survey, 66% of people don't want helicopters in our hills here. And then so I thought, well, gosh, I'd better start getting on board. So I come down and then I was given, the doc, Jason, said, no, there's been no application from Wairo for the extensions of the boundaries. And I said, I'm sure there has. So someone wrote to the Unofficial Information Act, and here was documentation, correspondence with Jason, that Wairo had made an application to DOC to have all of the ranges 24/7, 12 months of the year, in black and white. So they're lying to us, and these things were happening on behind the scenes. So I got up and running, and then I said, well, we've certainly got to take this one. We've got a lot of young fellas hunting. We need to guard their sport. We need to have a management plan. We need to have it's a huge business now, this hunting business. The helicopter business is not huge, and so we need to really fight this one. So there is a groundswell of hunters. I've been down to South Island. I've been up to Bluff Hut, back at Hokitika. I could not believe what helicopters can do if they have their free way. They can wipe out the deer. They can hunt these nook and crannies. They can just smash them. Have anyone seen the Good Old Days video? Where the days when they went hunting way back in the 60s, and you want to see the deer, and you want to see the deer. They're all over the guns, they're everywhere. They went back 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
The helicopter dropped these old fellas off.
Yeah.
There wasn't one deer, there wasn't one deer. There was dead. The place was dead. We need the deer to be farmed and mixed in with all of the environment. We're not idiots. We don't want the bush and the trees and the sort to come into the room. We're not idiots. We had a meeting with Simon Power, our group, and he said, you guys are onto it. He said, this is what we need, because he was Minister of Justice, and he said the amount of young fellas that are getting into court, and he had a son, a person in sport isn't a person in court, and he was immediately going to ring Kate Wilkinson and say, listen, these guys are for real, please listen to them. So we are getting some traction in that area, and our main traction really is Alan. He's going to speak. As United Future's got an awesome plan that I believe all our hunters should applaud and go with him. So I'm going to finish there to say that this is a magnificent thing we're all doing, and you take it on board and